What's up, guys? We're back with another Power Rangers Lightning Collection review. Taking a look at the latest army builder in the line, we have got our Mighty Morphin Z putty here. So this, of course, is, the Lord Zed, the super putty, all that good stuff. So a lot of reuse here, but of course enough new to make this guy still quite desirable for me, just so I can get a handful of these to go along with the regular ones. Of course, we've got him here in the same normal standard style packaging for the line. Figure in the window, that great Tom Whalen artwork that runs on the side and along the spine of the box, and then the back of the package has got that kind of CG render style shot of the figure. So good clean presentation as usual, but we're going to do it. We're going to pull them out, so let's do it. Let's take a look. So here we go, out of the package, our Z Putty. And like I said, this guy he's pretty familiar territory. There's a lot of reuse on this figure. It's not 100%, and there is some new stuff on this guy too, but as far as, say, moving him around, or just general action figure purposes, this guy is basically the same kind of thing that we got with the regular one, which is to say that it's still a pretty good figure, because I absolutely love that original Putty. I've got too many of them, 7 of them, I think. It sounds stupid to say that when I have to count them, but I really do like that figure. And this guy is more of the same, just different and with a little added stuff. So let's see what he can do for the uninitiated. You've got a head that can look up really far. He can look down pretty good. You don't have much tilt side to side, but you do have full rotation at the head. Arms go out at the shoulders. They, of course, rotate all the way around. You do have your butterfly joint in there as well. We've got our bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows. There is also a wrist swivel because of how the hands swap out. But, of course, that means there isn't anything else. So he's got a wrist swivel, but there is, or a forearm swivel, rather. It's really more of a forearm swivel. No actual wrist swivel or hinge, though. You've got the diaphragm cut, so he swivels all the way around pretty good. Tilt side to side is really nice, and then of course you've got that ab crunch in conjunction with that, so he moves forward really, really nicely, and then he goes backwards quite a bit as well. You've got legs that only go out about yay far. They do kick forward all the way. They kick backwards slightly, and then you've got your thigh cut. We've got double jointed knees, so they go back about that far, and then you've got your boot cut, and you've got rocker, and you've got hinges down at those ankles. So he moves just as well as the regular one. I mean, really, he is just as good as any other Lightning Collection figure, outside of the fact that they do have the oddities when it comes to their wrist articulation, just because of the fact of how they swap out those forearms and the whole rocky nature of things. So they do lose a little bit there, but the rest of this figure moves just fantastically. Now, as far as the aesthetics go, the overall design, I felt like the best way to do this would be to go ahead and just straight up compare the Z Putty to the regular Putty. And there are variations between these based on where you got them. So the one that came with the Green Ranger is not exactly the same as the one that comes in the 2-pack. The paint applications on them are different. Specifically, the designs on the chest are not the same. But as far as the overall mixture of parts, they are all identical. So we've got our new one on the left, it's not old, but our first release figure, the regular Putty, on the right. And you can see right off the bat that they are very different. They are still very, very similar. So there are a lot of reused parts here, from things like part of the chest, the head sculpt, the arms, most of the legs. The only thing that's really different on the legs are the kneecaps, the actual joints, and the boots themselves. The rest of the legs are all the same, which is perfectly fine. I think that's a solid reuse of parts. Of course, where things get a little bit different are just the overall colors. This guy is not the same shade of gray. He is a little bit darker. He's got more of a wash. At least it seems like he has more of a wash to me in the rocky hands. Not so much that it's a huge difference or in any way much of an improvement, just that it seems to be a little bit more obvious in some areas to me. Of course, the new one does have the vest on with the Lord Zed Z, and then of course the knee pads are emblazoned with the logo as well. And then the boots are a big difference. They actually look like real boots with laces that run up and down them, rather than just, generic leathery boots right there. So he is very different at a base level, but at the same time, he's really, really similar. One of the big areas that stand out to me when I have them next to each other, though, is the faces. The faces are very different, not in sculpt, but in paint. So this guy has a much, much darker gray. The sculpt is all the same underneath there, but it really brings out some of the detail. On my first few putties, like this one, I actually put a wash on the face, and I haven't done it to all of them. So this is one that hasn't had it applied to bring out a lot more of that kind of rocky texture. And I think it works really well on these. I may end up doing the same thing on here, but I'm not sure it's going to be as obvious because he's already really dark to begin begin with. So there's really not a lot to talk about when it comes to the overall sculpt here, because I have already run through this guy before and I really like him. This guy is just a little bit different with a few changes to mix up the design a little bit, just because this guy does look slightly different. But otherwise, it doesn't really change the overall aesthetics or anything like that. It's just a different version of an already solid figure with a few different paint applications, an added chest piece, and then some change-ups when it comes to some of the legs. Where he really changes up, though, is when it comes to the accessories, because the mix of accessories is nowhere near the same when it comes to this first release as it did to the first release for the Putty. There's kind of a mix and match going on between the original Putty and the 2-pack in some ways. So this is where he gets a little bit of a refresh, a change up in some ways, is the accessories. So he comes with stuff that is similar yet different to what we've already gotten with the other putties. So to start with, you've got the kind of chest blast effect. We saw this in the 2-pack. It was yellow though. So this is a similar thing, but just a different color scheme. And I really like the way this looks by comparison. So it's a kind of a smoky gray color for the piece that wraps around. It just sits on him like a backpack, but on the front. And then you've got a really metallic blue for the actual burst. So, it's like somebody striking him, the telltale Power Rangers sparking effects. And then, you can take that off if you want. It's really easy to put on. It's just kind of like a really soft, rubbery plastic. So I really like this. It's a pretty dynamic effect, honestly, and something that you could obviously use with really anything in this line, except maybe a couple of the slightly larger figures. And then he comes with another energy effect. So he's got a flaming fist effect, and this is done up in kind of an orange-red color with a lot of glitter in there. It may not be the easiest thing to pick up on camera, but it is very metallic within that plastic. And then underneath there, you've got the hand that he needs to use for this. So he does have 2 swappable hands. In the box, you've got a left gripping hand, or a kind of a style pose open hand, and then the right is a gripping hand. This time around, you've got a right fist hand, and you've got a left gripping hand. So you do have 2 different sets of hands here, 4 total hands, and then you've got the 2 energy effects. Of course, the original putties came with the kind of the dagger and the mace type of weapons. Those are 100% swappable here, because you just pop these arms off, and there is a peg underneath there, just like that, right there. Usually it's a lot easier than that. So you can take any of those other accessories and just pop them on, and you'll have extras if you have multiple putties. So if you want to use those with the Z putties, you do have the option. This guy just doesn't happen to come with any out of the box. Other than that, though, he does have a pretty solid spread, continuing the tradition for this line of basically loading up every figure with a bunch of stuff. So yeah, there's not a great deal to go into on this particular figure, but it's a solid figure. Just like the first putty, I'm really happy with the results on this one. It's a nice army builder that comes with a number of options when it comes to accessories, and it's a Power Rangers putty. I mean, I was going to be on board no matter what, but I'm happy that we're getting this version as well after we've already had a few chances to get the regular one. So I've got a small little squad, well, it's not little, a small squad of putties to begin with, and then I can have some of the Super Z putties to go along with them to beef up their ranks or to throw alongside Lord Zed. And they've got some cool effect parts to go along with them that you can use with other figures too. They don't have to be explicitly for this guy. They'll work with other figures quite nicely. So yeah, this guy is definitely a lot of fun and something that I'm certainly going to need more than the 2 that I've already got. So that's going to do it for this look at the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Mighty Morphin Z Putty. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.